Hi everyone, it's Laura Volpes and today I'm back to share with you the second card that I created as a guest designer for Inkon3. Last week I showed you some ink blending with the Inkon3 Atelier Inks, and this week we're going to have a look at how these inks behave with heat embossing, and spoiler alert, there was quite a surprising result. As always, if you do enjoy this video, make sure to let me know with a thumbs up and a comment in the comment section down below. And if you're new to my channel, you can subscribe for more card making and paper crafting inspiration. And now let's get started with the tutorial. Let's start by taking a quick look at the products that I'll be using for today's card. As I mentioned in the intro, I'll be using Atelier Inks by Inkon3, and I'm going to use the color Peacock Blue and the color My Gem Purple. The stamp set that I'll be using today is called Forever Friends and it's so sweet, I'm in love with it. And then I also decided to use the Leafy Forest Stencil to create my background. I have here some watercolor cardstock that I die cut to an A2 size using the Heffy Doodle Imperial stitched rectangle dies. I am securing the stencil to my cardstock using my Make Art Station by Ranger so that I can start doing some ink blending. When I first saw this stencil, the first color that popped into my head was green, but then I decided that I wanted to use a little bit of a different color palette for my card, so I'm using a purple to ink blend the leaves, and this is My Plum Jam by Inkon3. For my blending, I am using domed ink blenders by scrapbook.com, and the idea here was to create an emboss resist background, so I wanted to emboss my leaves with clear embossing powder, and this way I could then go with a second layer of ink in a different color. Because I have the embossing powder on my leaves, the embossing powder will resist the ink so that the two colors will not match, but I found a very interesting result when working with Atelier Inks. I am not sure why this happened because the leaves were completely coated with the embossing powder, but as I was melting it, it was not covering the surface homogeneously, but it was beading up and it created almost like a dewdrop effect, which I think for a background like this is really perfect. I wasn't sure if this was because I waited too long between my ink blending and my heat embossing, so I even did a test off camera where I just ink blended a scrap piece of cardstock and immediately heat embossed it with the same clear embossing powder, and I got the same result. So if you have any idea why this happened, please let me know in the comments down below because I am really curious. As I said, I don't know the reason, but I think that the result is really beautiful. I am now coming in with the second layer of ink, and this is Peacock Blue ink by Inkon3, and you can see that the embossing powder is resisting the second layer, so even if the leaves were not entirely coated with the powder, I could still preserve that nice purple that I had as my first layer. And then of course I had to add a little bit of shimmer using liquid pixie dust, and this is the final result. Really easy, quick and super fun. Next, I started working on my images and I'm going to stamp them with Blackout ink on Bristol Smooth cardstock by Strathmore. Blackout ink by Inkon3 is a hybrid ink. I used it last week in my first card as a guest designer for Inkon3, and I used it with Illustrator markers, which are alcohol based. And today I'm going to use Karin Brushmarkers Pro, which are water-based markers instead. So this is the fun feature of hybrid inks. You can use them with all kinds of mediums and they will not bleed. As I mentioned, Karin Brushmarkers Pro are water-based markers. These are kind of new to me. I have been playing with them a little bit behind the scenes and I have to say that I really love them. The colors are nice and vibrant and they blend really well. You can blend them using the Karin Brushmarker Pro blenders or just some clean water, which is what I'm doing today with the help of a water brush. So what I do is I just lay down the marker directly on paper in the areas where I think the shadows will be, and then I just go in with my water brush loaded with clean clear water and I blend out the color towards the highlight. I'm using Bristol Smooth cardstock by Strathmore because I find this cardstock works really nicely when you work with water brush markers, whether it is Karin Brushmarkers Pro or also Zicklin Color Real brush markers. I have tried these also on watercolor cardstock, on Canson XL watercolor cardstock, and it worked very nicely as well. To color the fur of the fox, I used copper brown and then I used blush for the ears. For the tail and the face, I'm going to use warm gray 1, and I have all the markers that I used listed on screen, as well as in the blog post that you will find linked in the description box down below. There you will also find more pictures of this project, as well as a supply list with picture links. I do have all the supplies listed and linked in the description box directly as well, but there I cannot have pictures, so if you prefer that option, make sure to check out my blog. Coming back to the coloring, I decided to use warm gray 3 for the bunny, so I'm going a little bit darker than the tail and the face of the fox, just to have a little bit of color variation. And also in this case, I added the marker directly where I thought the shadows would be, and I used my water brush to blend them out. I used blush for the inside portion of the ear of the bunny as well, and then I cut out the image with my scissors. Off camera, I also did a little bit of die cutting and I created this panel out of some white cardstock. The die set that I used is the Dotted Patterns Set 3 by Studio Katia, which includes both the rectangle die that I used for the outside part of the panel, as well as the oval that I used to die cut the window. I adhered this panel directly onto my background, and then I also glued down the image with the fox and the bunny, which by the way is super sweet. I heat embossed my sentiment with white embossing powder over some black cardstock, and this is one of the greetings which is included in the Forever Friends stamp set by Inkon3. I adhered it to my background, slightly tucking it under that window opening there to create a little bit of extra interest, and then I finished off my card with some blue crystals. And here is the final result. I think the card turned out really cute. The design is pretty simple, but I love the effect that I got with the heat embossing on my background, as well as all the sparkle with the liquid pixie dust. And that's it for today. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and leave a comment in the comment section down below. And if you haven't already, you can subscribe for more card making and paper crafting inspiration. As always, thank you all so much for stopping by and have a great day.